The field exercise was supposed to be routine observation. Emphasis on supposed to be. Instructor Nash Petrova stood in the center of the training field, surrounded by 12 alien cadets who all looked like they'd rather be literally anywhere else. The dual suns beat down on the Academy's outdoor xenobiology range, and Nash was explaining the behavioral patterns of Death World predators with the same energy most people reserved for discussing tax forms. So the key thing to remember, she said, gesturing toward the transport crates behind her, is that aggression and play can look identical to an untrained observer. The difference is in the Vrin cub exploded out of his crate like a furry missile. The handler, a nervous six-limbed species whose name Nash could never pronounce, had looked away for exactly 3 seconds. That was all it took. 60 kilos of adolescent apex predator hit the ground running, heading straight for Nash with the kind of enthusiasm that usually preceded someone getting their face eaten off. All 12 cadets reacted instantly. Defensive positions. Weapons drawn. Someone hit an emergency alert button. Operative Jenka, the rigid insectoid who took everything way too seriously, started shouting about containment protocols. The cub skidded to a halt 3 meters from Nash. His ears were forward. His tail was up. His whole body language screamed play to anyone who knew how to read it. He growled, not a threat growl, a challenge growl. The kind of sound that meant, I'm testing you, let's see what you do. Nash looked at him, grinned, and growled back. The cadets stared in absolute horror. The cub's eyes lit up with pure joy. Then Nash laughed, loud and genuine, and the cub pounced. She caught him midair like a football, stumbled back 2 steps under the impact, and went down in a controlled fall with 60 kilos of delighted predator trying to wrestle her into submission. Instructor Petrova is under attack, someone screamed. She's not under attack, she's... Another cadet started. The Academy alarm system activated. Red lights strobed across the field. A siren wailed. Nash was on her back, hands wrapped around the cub's front legs, rolling him over while he made sounds that were half growl, half chirp. His tail was wagging so hard his whole back end wiggled. Relax, Nash called out, laughing as the cub tried to gnaw on her arm with his mouth carefully closed. He's playing. It's called socialization. Operative Jenka's voice climbed 3 octaves. That is a Class 9 predator. That is a baby, Nash shot back, now sitting up with the cub sprawled across her lap like an oversized puppy. There's a difference. The cub was making happy noises, his tongue lolling out, clearly having the time of his life. You are violating Protocol 83, subsection. Jenka, I swear, if you cite one more regulation right now. Security forces arrived with stun weapons drawn. The change was instant. The cub saw them, saw the weapons, saw people approaching his new friend with hostile intent. His playful demeanor vanished like someone had flipped a switch. The happy sounds stopped. His body went rigid. His ears pinned back, not in play, but in genuine aggression. He slid off Nash's lap and positioned himself between her and the security team. A real growl rumbling from his chest now. Deep. Threatening. The kind of sound that activated every prey species instinct in a 10-meter radius. Nash immediately recognized the shift. Her hand went to his back, gentle but firm. Stand down, she said to security, her voice sharp. You're making it worse. Commander Velkoth stepped forward, all 8 of his arms spread in what his species probably thought was an intimidating display. Instructor Petrova, step away from the hostile organism. He's not hostile, Nash said, still keeping her hand on the cub's back, feeling the tension thrumming through his muscles. He's protective. You're the ones being hostile. That predator is exhibiting... He's exhibiting protective behavior because you showed up pointing weapons at someone he's decided is pack. Nash's voice stayed calm, soothing. She murmured something to the cub in a low tone that the translators didn't catch. The cub's ears twitched. His growl softened slightly. The cadets were watching this with the kind of fascinated horror usually reserved for disasters you can't look away from. You have bonded with a Class 9 predator in under 2 minutes, Jenka said, his translator barely able to convey his disbelief. That is impossible. And yet? Nash kept her attention on the cub, her hand making slow, steady strokes along his back. Easy, buddy. They're just scared and stupid, not a threat. The cub sat down. Security didn't lower their weapons. Nash's patience ran out. "Okay, here's what's going to happen," she said, her voice taking on the tone that made even the most rebellious cadets snap to attention. "You're going to lower those weapons, back away slowly, and let me handle this. Or I'm going to let him handle this, and then we're all going to have a really bad day. Your choice." Commander Velkoth's primary arms twitched toward his communicator. "You are threatening a superior officer. I'm preventing a bloodbath. There's a difference." Nash stood up slowly, the cub staying pressed against her leg. "He's already decided I'm worth protecting. If you escalate this, he will escalate. And trust me, Commander, you don't want to see what a Vryn cub can do when he thinks his pack is threatened." The cub growled again, softer, watching the security team with those dark, intelligent eyes. "This is a violation of every safety protocol in the manual," Velkoth said. But his weapons were lowering. Slightly. The manual was written by people who've never actually socialized with predators. Nash's hand stayed on the cub's head, scratching behind his ears. He leaned into it, but his eyes never left. The security team. "You want to know why human xenobiologists have a 98% success rate with dangerous species? This is why. We don't treat them like weapons. We treat them like people. They are not people. They're not objects either." The standoff held for another 10 seconds. Then the cub did something that made every single being on that field question everything they'd been taught about Vryn behavior. He sat down completely, leaned against Nash's leg, and yawned. Not a threat display, just a yawn. Like this whole thing was boring now. Commander Velkoth's weapons finally lowered. "I am reporting this to the Commandant." "You do that," Nash said. "Tell them I prevented a containment breach through basic behavioral psychology. Should look great in your report." The security team backed away slowly, weapons still in hand but no longer aimed. The cub's tail started wagging again. Nash looked down at him. "You're going to get me in so much trouble, aren't you?" He licked her hand. "Yeah, that's what I thought." From across the field, Operative Zhenka's voice carried over the fading alarm. "The human just made friends with a Class 9 predator. In 2 minutes. This is not possible." Nash heard another cadet respond. "And yet, we all just watched it happen." The cub flopped onto his back, exposing his belly, looking up at Nash with obvious trust. She crouched down and gave him a belly rub. Somewhere in the distance, Nash was pretty sure she heard Commander Velkoth making stress noises into his communicator. This was going to be one hell of an incident report. Nash stood up slowly, the cub still pressed against her leg, and put herself directly between security and 60 kilos of adolescent predator who'd decided she was worth protecting. "Lower your weapons," she said, her voice calm but carrying the kind of authority that made people obey before their brains caught up. "Or I'll file this as threatening a training asset under my supervision." Commander Velkoth's 8 arms stiffened. "That organism is not under your supervision." "He is now." Nash didn't blink. Section 23, subsection 11. Field instructors have authority over all xenobiological specimens during active training exercises. She was absolutely bluffing. That regulation didn't exist. She just made it up on the spot. But Commander Velkoth didn't know that. His primary arms twitched toward his datapad, probably to verify. Nash kept her expression perfectly neutral. The kind of face that said, "Yes, I absolutely know what I'm talking about. Go ahead and check." The cub, sensing the tension dropping, started wagging his tail again. Velkoth's weapons lowered. Slowly, reluctantly. But they lowered. "This will be in my report," he said. "I'm counting on it." Nash crouched down, and the cub immediately climbed back into her lap, all threat forgotten. Just a happy teenager who'd made a new friend. "Make sure you mention how I prevented a containment breach without a single injury. Should make you look great." The security team backed away, muttering among themselves in 3 different languages. The cadets were taking frantic notes. Every single one of them. Operative Zhenka's appendages were moving so fast across his datapad he looked like he was having a seizure. The humans cited a regulation that forced security to stand down. Must verify if Section 23, subsection 11 actually… It doesn't, another cadet whispered. She made it up. She made it up. And it worked? It worked. Nash scratched the cub behind his ears. He made happy rumbling sounds. And that's when the Academy Commandant showed up, absolutely furious. High Administrator Quethaval was a crystalline species whose entire body structure refracted light in ways that usually looked beautiful. Right now, he looked like an angry disco ball, his form flickering through colors that Nash's translator helpfully informed her meant rage, disbelief, and administrative frustration. Instructor Petrova. His voice could have cut glass. Explain. Now. Nash, still sitting on the ground with the cub sprawled across her lap, looked up. He was testing boundaries, standard juvenile behavior for social predators. You growled at a Vrin predator. He growled first. I responded in kind. It's communication. Quethval's crystalline structure flickered so violently, Nash worried he might shatter. That is not communication. That is threat display. No, threat display would be if I'd backed away and acted scared. That would have triggered chase instinct, and then we'd have a real problem. Nash kept her tone patient, like she was explaining basic math to a particularly slow student. He was testing me. I passed the test. We're friends now. You cannot be friends with a Class 9 predator. And yet… She gestured at the cub, who was now chewing contentedly on the corner of her jacket. Here we are. Operative Jenka nervously raised an appendage. High Administrator, if I may, the human may actually be correct. Vrin behavioral literature does state that juvenile specimens engage in playtesting to establish social hierarchies and… I don't care what the literature states. Quethval's color shifted to something Nash's translator labeled as apoplectic purple. This violated 83 separate safety protocols. And kept everyone safe, Nash said. You're welcome. The cub chose that exact moment to curl up more comfortably in Nash's lap, let out a satisfied sigh, and fall completely asleep. The Commandant's crystalline form flickered with what could only be described as a rage crash, all his colors flashing at once in a pattern that probably meant his species' equivalent of a stroke. You have created, he said slowly, each word precisely enunciated, an unprecedented diplomatic incident with the Vrin Homeworld Council, violated Academy safety regulations, and somehow bonded with a Deathworld predator in under 10 minutes. Closer to 5, actually. This is not helping your case. Nash shrugged, careful not to disturb the sleeping cub. I'm just being accurate. That's when the xenopsychologists arrived. There were 4 of them, led by Dr. Vothrin, a floating neural cluster species that looked like someone had given a brain tentacles and a really bad attitude. They descended on the training field with the kind of academic fervor that made Nash immediately regret every life choice that had led to this moment. Fascinating, Dr. Vothrin breathed, his neural clusters pulsing with excitement. Absolutely fascinating. We must study this interaction immediately. No, Nash said. This is an unprecedented example of human-predator bonding dynamics. The behavioral implications alone. Still no. Instructor Petrova, you don't understand the significance. I understand that you want to poke and prod and study something that's currently taking a nap. Hard pass. Dr. Vothrin's clusters pulsed faster. This isn't unprecedented for your species, is it? Humans have been documented forming attachments with predators before. Yeah, for about 10,000 years. We call them dogs. But those are domesticated species. This is a wild Vrin. Nash looked down at the cub, who was snoring softly, drooling on her boot. He's 16 weeks old. He's not wild. He's a teenager. And teenagers, human, Vrin, whatever, all act pretty much the same. They test boundaries, they want attention, and they respond to people who treat them with respect. The xenopsychologists started circling, recording everything. One of them approached the cadets. You witnessed the initial interaction? They asked Operative Jenka. I did. Jenka's voice carried the tone of someone who'd seen things that would haunt him forever. The predator charged the human. She didn't retreat. She didn't show fear. She made a vocalization. What kind of vocalization? A challenge roar. The beast heard it and immediately submitted to her dominance. Nash sighed. I did not roar. I growled. There's a difference. The human roared, another cadet insisted. And the predator recognized her as alpha and prostrated itself before her superior strength. That is not... Okay, you know what? I'm too tired for this. Nash gently shifted the sleeping cub off her lap. He grumbled, but didn't wake, and stood up. He didn't submit. He recognized play behavior and responded appropriately. This isn't dominance, it's social interaction. Dr. Vothran's neural clusters were practically vibrating. We must document this properly. Instructor Petrova, you will repeat the interaction under controlled conditions. Full observation protocols, multiple angles, comprehensive behavioral analysis, hard pass. This is not a request. The Academy Science Division has authority to... The cub is sleeping. Nash pointed at the peacefully snoring predator. I'm not waking him up so you can get your research. Jollies, come back later, or better yet, don't. The scientific value of this interaction is less important than letting a kid sleep. Nash crossed her arms. You want to study human-predator bonding? Read a book. We've got thousands of years of documentation. Or better yet, try actually spending time with animals instead of just writing papers about them. Quethval's crystalline form was flickering through so many colors, he looked like a malfunctioning traffic light. Instructor Petrova, you are ordered to cooperate with the research team. Nash looked at him, looked at the sleeping cub, looked back at the commandant. No. That is insubordination. That is prioritizing animal welfare over bureaucratic convenience. She glanced at her chronometer. Also, my training session isn't over. I've still got 40 minutes with these cadets, and we were in the middle of a lesson about reading behavioral cues. So, unless you want to officially cancel the session and explain to Galactic Command why you're interfering with Academy training protocols? She let the implication hang. Quethval's colors shifted to something Nash's translator labeled as frustrated resignation. 40 minutes, he said. Then you report to my office, with a full explanation, in writing. Looking forward to it. The commandant and the research team withdrew, though Dr. Vothran kept looking back like he was physically restraining himself from rushing back to take samples. Nash turned to her cadets, who were all staring at her with expressions ranging from awe to terror. Right, she said. Where were we? Oh yeah, behavioral cues. Question. What did you all observe about the cub's body language before and after security arrived? 12 hands, appendages, and tentacles shot up. This was going to be a very interesting after-action report. The order came down from Academy Command 2 hours later. Instructor Petrova would demonstrate her technique for the entire cadet corps. Nash read the directive twice, hoping the words would somehow rearrange themselves into something less stupid. They didn't. This isn't a technique, she said to Commandant Quethval, who'd summoned her to his office along with half the administrative staff. This is just being chill with animals. You will demonstrate for the cadet corps, Quethval said, his crystalline form still flickering with residual irritation from earlier. Or face disciplinary review. This is a terrible idea. Noted. Proceed anyway. Nash looked around the room at the various administrators, academics, and military officials who all nodded in agreement with their commandant. Not one dissenting voice. You're all going to feel really stupid when this goes sideways, she said. Also noted. The demonstration is scheduled for 1400 hours. Dismissed. They set up the controlled environment in the Academy's main training arena, a massive oval space with observation galleries that could hold 300 cadets. By the time Nash arrived, all 300 seats were full, with 12 different species represented. The academic team had set up recording equipment at 6 different angles. Dr. Vothran floated near the front row, his neural clusters practically vibrating with excitement. The cub was brought in via secure transport crate, looking confused by all the attention and lights. Nash walked into the arena, boots crunching on the carefully prepared dirt floor. The cub saw her and completely ignored her to investigate a particularly interesting rock. 5 minutes passed. Nash sat down cross-legged in the center of the arena and waited. The cub sniffed the rock, pawed at it, picked it up in his mouth, shook it, dropped it. "Instructor Petrova," Quethval's voice boomed from the observation gallery. "Engage with the specimen." "He's busy," Nash called back. "This is a demonstration. This is an animal. He doesn't care about your schedule." The cub found some dirt that apparently needed investigating. He dug at it enthusiastically, sending clods flying. 10 minutes. The cadets in the gallery were whispering among themselves. Nash caught fragments through the arena's acoustics. "Why is she just sitting there? Is this the technique? The human appears to be doing nothing. Maybe that is the technique?" 15 minutes. The cub finally got bored with the dirt. He looked around, spotted Nash sitting patiently in the center of the arena, and his ears perked up. Oh, right. The friend. He trotted over and flopped down beside her like they did this every day. Nash scratched behind his ears. He made happy rumbling sounds. The gallery exploded with noise, cadets taking frantic notes, academics shouting observations, someone demanding to know what behavioral cue had triggered the approach. The cue was, "He got bored," Nash said, not bothering to raise her voice. If they wanted to hear her, they could turn up the arena microphones. "I didn't do anything. I just waited for him to be ready." Dr. Vothran's neural clusters pulsed. But the literature states that Vrin respond to dominance displays, hierarchical positioning. The literature is written by people who study captive adults. This is a teenager. Different rules. The cub rolled onto his back, exposing his belly. Nash gave him a belly rub. Half the gallery looked scandalized, the other half looked fascinated. That's when Operative Zhenka, apparently trying to be helpful, tossed a training ball into the arena. The cub's head snapped toward the movement. His entire demeanor changed in an instant. Ears forward, muscles coiled, eyes locked on the bouncing ball with absolute focus. Pure predator. The gallery gasped. The cub pounced on the ball with the full intensity of a hunter taking down prey, pinning it with his front paws, teeth closing around it. Someone in the gallery screamed. Then the cub picked up the ball, trotted back to Nash, and dropped it at her feet. He sat down, tail wagging, waiting. Nash looked at the ball, looked at the cub, looked up at the gallery where 300 cadets had gone absolutely silent. She picked up the ball and threw it. The cub chased it like his life depended on it, snatched it mid-bounce, and brought it back. Dropped it. Sat. Waited. Nash threw it again. "This is impossible," Dr. Vothran breathed, his voice carrying in the stunned silence. "Vrin don't play fetch. They don't engage in retrieval behavior. It's not in their behavioral repertoire." Nash threw the ball a third time. "Well, this one does." The cub brought it back, dropped it, sat with his tongue lolling out, looking absolutely delighted with himself. "Is the human training the predator?" Zhenka asked, his voice carrying a note of awe. "I'm playing with him," Nash said, throwing the ball again. "He's training himself. I'm just providing the opportunity. But Vrin are solitary hunters. Adult Vrin are solitary. Juveniles are social. They need interaction, play, bonding, just like human kids, or insectoid larvae, or pretty much every young organism in the galaxy." She caught the ball as the cub brought it back. "You all keep treating them like miniature adults instead of children. That's your problem." The cub sat, waiting for another throw. The observation gallery was losing its collective mind. Academics shouting theories, military officers demanding explanations, cadets frantically documenting everything. Nash threw the ball one more time. The cub chased it, grabbed it, and started trotting back. But this time, instead of dropping it at her feet, he held onto it. And growled. Not a threat growl, a playful growl, a challenge. "Try to take it, I dare you." Nash grinned. And growled back. The entire gallery hit their emergency alert buttons simultaneously. Red lights strobed, alarms wailed. 300 cadets evacuated their seats in a panicked stampede toward the exits. The cub's tail was wagging so hard, his whole back end wiggled. Nash lunged for the ball. The cub dodged, play-bowing, making happy, challenging sounds. She lunged again. He danced away, absolutely delighted with this game. "Instructor Petrova is under attack!" Someone screamed over the alarm system. "She is not under attack! She is playing tug-of-war!" Another voice shouted back. Nash finally caught the edge of the ball. The cub held on. They pulled back and forth, growling at each other, his deep and rumbling, hers doing her best impression. The cub let go suddenly. Nash stumbled backward, laughing. He pounced on her, and the emergency response team burst into the arena with weapons drawn. Again. "Oh, come on!" Nash yelled from beneath 60 kilos of delighted predator. "Seriously? We're playing fetch!" The cub saw the armed team, saw weapons pointed at his friend. His playful demeanor vanished like someone had flipped a switch. He moved in front of Nash, hackles raised, a real growl building in his chest. "Stand down!" Nash shouted, scrambling to her feet. "Don't you people learn?" But the cub was already advancing on the response team, body low, every line of him screaming threat. Nash put herself between them. Again. "You," she said to the response team, her voice cold enough to frost glass. "Need to stop pointing weapons at animals who are just trying to have a good time." The team leader, a different one this time, some species Nash didn't recognize, kept his weapon trained on the cub. "That predator exhibited aggressive behavior. That predator was playing fetch and you idiots crashed the party." Nash's patience had officially left the building. "Every single time we make progress, you show up and ruin it. Every single time." The cub pressed against her legs, still growling, still watching the response team. "Lower your weapons," Nash said. "Now, or I swear I will let him make his own decisions about how to handle armed intruders. That's a threat against Academy security. That's a statement of fact. Lower your weapons." The standoff held for 10 seconds, 15, 20. Then Commandant Quethval's voice boomed through the arena speakers. "Security team, stand down. That is a direct order." The weapons lowered, slowly. The cub's growl faded. Nash turned and picked up the ball. "Hey, buddy, want to play some more?" The cub's ears perked up. His tail started wagging again. She threw the ball. He chased it like nothing had happened. In the observation gallery, the few cadets who hadn't evacuated, there was absolute silence. Nash looked up at them. "Any questions?" 300 hands, appendages, and tentacles shot up. This was going to be a very long afternoon. Nash sat in Commandant Quethval's office 3 hours later, filling out the most ridiculous incident report in Academy history. The cub had refused to stay behind, so he'd come too. He was currently investigating the Commandant's desk, sniffing everything like it might contain snacks. "You have created," Quethval said, his crystalline form flickering with bureaucratic exhaustion, "an unprecedented diplomatic incident." Nash didn't look up from the datapad. "I played fetch with a puppy. That is a Vrin combat species. That is a child." Long silence. The cub found a stylus, brought it to Nash, and dropped it at her feet. She threw it across the office. He chased it with absolute joy. Quethval's colors shifted to resignation mixed with disbelief. "The Vrin delegation has contacted us," he said finally. Nash looked up. "To complain?" "To request your services. They want you to train their handlers." Quethval pulled up a communication. "They've never seen one of their young interact this way?" Nash blinked. "I just treated him like a kid instead of a weapon. Apparently that's revolutionary." The cub brought the stylus back. Nash threw it again. "They're offering a substantial consulting fee," Quethval continued. "And 17 other species have submitted formal requests for human interaction specialists." Nash's datapad pinged. A message from Dr. Vothran. "Humans have successfully bonded with 89% of species classified as dangerous or non-socializable. This should not be possible. Human biology does not support necessary bonding mechanisms. Yet the evidence is irrefutable. Humans bond with everything, even things designed to kill them." The cub had curled up on the floor, stylus tucked under his chin, already asleep. 17 species, Quethaval said quietly. Because you played fetch. Because I treated him like an individual with feelings. Nash looked at the sleeping cub. It's not complicated. That's what terrifies me. 3 weeks later, Nash stood before a classroom of terrified cadets. Welcome to interspecies communication through play. I'm Instructor Petrova. This is my assistant. The Vrin cub, now officially named Fetch, sat beside her, tail wagging. You named a Class 9 predator Fetch? One cadet asked weakly. He likes Fetch. The name fits. Nash threw a ball. Fetch bounded after it. Today we're learning play behavior and body language. Fetch dropped the ball and play bowed, making happy challenge sounds. Half the class flinched. See that? Front down, back up, tail wagging. That's play. If he wanted to attack, he'd be low to the ground, ears back, completely different. 5 more human instructors arrived that week. Same approach. Treat aliens like individuals, build relationships, use play instead of fear. The Academy's success rate tripled in 2 weeks. Dr. Vothran's new paper concluded, humans befriend predators through play, not dominance. This should be impossible. Recommendation: stop trying to explain why it works and accept that it does. Nash read reports while Fetch slept on her feet. 4 new species wanted consultation. 2 military academies wanted human trainers. Cadet Zhenka appeared in her doorway. Instructor, I've completed my analysis. Let's hear it. Humans possess innate pack bonding that supersedes threat assessment. They form attachments based on emotional connection. This should result in high mortality. Instead, it results in unprecedented success. That's a fancy way of saying we make friends easily. That's a terrifying way of describing a species that befriends apex predators for recreation. Nash grinned. Fair enough. Zhenka hesitated. When you first saw the cub charging, what did you think? I thought, oh, he's testing me. Wonder if he wants to play. You didn't think about danger? Not really. He was clearly a kid being a kid. Zhenka's appendages made a gesture meaning complete bafflement. Humans are insane. We get that a lot. Nash looked at the watching cadets through her window. You all overthink everything. Just be nice to them. Fetch yawned and went back to sleep. The meeting took place in a secured conference room. Commandant Quethval sat across from a galactic command representative. Should we be concerned about human integration in military programs? Quethval pulled up footage of Nash wrestling with Fetch while cadets took notes. On screen she was laughing, the cub making happy sounds. Concerned? No. He paused. Terrified? Absolutely. Explain. Because they don't see predators. They see friends, and they're teaching our soldiers to do the same. Quethval's form flickered. We built our militaries on fear and protocol, threat assessment, hierarchical control. On screen, Fetch brought the ball back, tail wagging. They built theirs on pack bonding and play. The representative watched for a long moment. And? Quethval's voice dropped to barely a whisper. And somehow, theirs works better.